welcome back to our second edition and sadly our last edition with the MAAC as we are going to the Colonial for Monmouth. But this is the Monmouth Basketball Hawks Nest podcast, and this is your MAAC tournament preview show for this year. So this is really the only place you're going to find that kind of preview. You might see stuff online. You might see predictions from Lindy's, which is not always so great in different places, but this is really where you're going to get the most in-depth info. So I am Ryan from the Monmouth podcast. We've got Mark, who joins me every week in the Monmouth podcast. We've got Andrew Robinson, who covers All Facts Media with Quinnipiac and some of the other teams around the area. We've got Guy Faltico, number one seed up at Iona. And we've got Kyle Franco from the Trentonian at Rider. So he covers all of the Rider Princeton teams out West New Jersey. So welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Oh, good. Good. Glad to be here.
West New Jersey. Did we just make that up on the spot?
It's kind of central, but way out west by Philly. So I figured more west was kind of
west of Monmouth. Yeah.
By the way, Kyle Franco riding off of a win yesterday with the Rider Bronx. So, we got to give them their due. Rider waking up just in time for March Madness.
Well, I kind of saw that one coming, to be honest with you, yesterday. Monmouth has always had problems in that gym. I don't count anything about last year when there were no fans in there. But Monmouth has always had trouble coming to Rider and winning there. So I wasn't, and Monmouth was locked into its spot already. Not a whole lot to play for other than if you think a 20-win season is something, and it is, but I mean, that was, Monmouth was kind of locked in. So, and Rider, came in and played really well yesterday. So we'll see if there's any carryover from that.
So since you spoke about Rider and we kind of are highlighting you first, to me, probably the most intriguing, and I'm going to steal Guy's PIG acronym here, play-in game matchup of Atlantic City this year. Manhattan, who I think has, based on if they're a full healthy squad, has a top 3, top 2 talented roster in the MAAC. Just showed you a glimpse of what they could do, beating Iona. They have Perez, who's probably the closest thing to a Carmelo Anthony one-man scoring bulldozing machine in the MAAC. And, notwithstanding if a couple key guards, Stewart, Nelson, if they're going to play or not. But this one really intrigues me, Kyle. We are going to defer to you here. You are the Rider insider. And you know the MAAC just inside and out as good as anybody, do just as good, if not better of a job covering it as a true journalist. And we got other people out here, podcast, media, you're a true newspaper guy. Love to hear your take on Manhattan and Rider and how that's going to play out, because that is the coin flip of all coin flips here in that first matchup.
Yeah, well, they split the 2 regular season meetings. They each won on their home floor. The most recent meeting was up at Dratty, and that game went to overtime. A very interesting game because Rider seemed to be in control of it. They were up 10. Ant Nelson got ejected from the game. And then all of a sudden, Manhattan, that seemed to kind of like spark Manhattan to life, picked up his defense, really starting to get into Rider. And I think Rider had about I want to say it's almost a 7-minute stretch where they didn't score. And Manhattan turned a 10-point deficit into an 8-point lead, which Rider then came back and tied the game. Was on the free throw line with 8 seconds left with a chance to take the lead. Only made 1 of 2. Game ends up in overtime, and then Jose Perez kind of took that game over in that extra session and pushed Manhattan to that win. It really is like the truest of 8-9 games. I think it's a total toss-up game. Rider had a very up and down season. Yeah, they had a 4-game win streak where they looked like they were going to get back into it. And then they went 1-5 in their next 6 games. And the thing about those 6 games, though, is that even including that win, all 6 of them were determined by 6 points or less. And that was kind of the fine margins in the MAAC this year. I mean, Rider lost 3 overtime games this year. They lost another game by 2 to Monmouth where, they didn't really get a good shot up at the end. They lost the game to Canisius up in Buffalo, where Canisius made a shot with 2 seconds to go. Guy and I talked the other week, and he talked about how he thought Rider might be second in the preseason before the season started. Obviously, it didn't turn out that way, but they weren't far off from finishing in that top half of the league. Ryder went 5-3 against teams that finished 2nd through 5th in the MAAC this year. So they're certainly capable on their day of beating anybody, maybe not Iona, but anybody else in the league. Ryder can certainly beat them and can certainly win this game against Manhattan. But Manhattan could also win this game against Ryder. And that's kind of how the league has been all year.
So 2 questions for me, follow-up questions. First of all, with Atlantic City hosting and Ryder being the closest in geographical proximity to Atlantic City out of the MAAC, do you expect, I mean, every time I go to Ryder, it's for a Monmouth game. I don't know if that draws more than what's fire code allowed in that building, but it always seems like it is bursting at the seams. So do you expect, and does Ryder administration expect a large Burgundy contingent down in Atlantic City?
Well, I think you've got to win a couple games first, right, for that to happen. Like, I don't know how many people are showing up for Tuesday at 5 o'clock against Manhattan. Like, I know they'll try and organize some fan buses to get some people down there. They were going to do that 2 years ago before COVID canceled the entire tournament. But I think the big thing is you got to win some games, right? You got to win Tuesday. If you win Tuesday, if you pull an upset on Wednesday, now you're going into a semifinal game on Friday. That's a lot different in terms of getting people down there. I think that applies to, a lot of teams in this league. Because if you start to get on a roll and you can get to Friday for a semifinal, then I think you have a chance to kind of get more people down there, really get, a bigger crowd, a more vocal crowd. But that's the biggest thing is you got to win games first in order to get your fans to show up.
I mean, even for Monmouth on Thursday night, I'm contemplating going right now. It's a 9:30 p.m. game where you got to drive down to Atlantic City Thursday, get home, 1, 2 a.m., go to work Friday, drive back down there Friday. So I even think as a 4 seed, Monmouth might have trouble getting people down there for that game. So I think really most teams in the conference aren't really going to get many people there until Friday night. I think you're right.
Yeah, and that's the that's the way this tournament has been historically, right? Okay, you can look at it in Albany when Siena is good and Siena and they're playing in Albany. I remember that the 4-5 game with Ryder like 3 years ago. That was a big crowd in there for that Siena Ryder first round game. But outside of that, wherever they put the tournament, those first rounds have always been sporadically attended. I wouldn't expect for that to be any different this time. I mean, you're asking people to come down and try and stay Tuesday through Saturday. I mean, you still have a work week going on. But again, if you can get on a roll and get to Friday in the semifinals, I think like Friday, Saturday, you could really get some people in there. I think back to 2 years ago before the COVID stopped everything, I thought we were going to have Siena as the 1 seed, Monmouth, St. Peter's, and Ryder in the semifinals that year. And I thought that had a chance with really nice weather. So I thought that one had a chance to maybe do really well. But we'll see what happens here. It's Atlantic City's first chance without the kind of the specter of COVID hanging over it to see what this looks like.
It'll be interesting. I could see if I were a Ryder fan and we upset, and saying we for Ryder, if I were a Ryder fan, we upset Manhattan, I could see selling myself on, hey, I'm taking the ride hour and a half to go see them take on the Rick Pitino-led Iona Gales. I think that's an easier sell than, the play-in game at 5 p.m. against Manhattan. Those are usually not very well attended. One more question for me, and I don't know if I was drinking the Burgundy Kool-Aid like Guy was, but I had Ryder in my 4-5 matchup in my preseason rankings. I thought Murray and Vaughn would be arguably both first-team All-MAAC guys. What happened that held them back this year, those two guys? Is it the emergence of James and a Powell that kind of held off their individual? Is it rust with Vaughn being reinserted into the lineup? What kind of held those two guys back from being those frontline MAAC guys this year?
Well, the funny thing is, had Ryder won Thursday at Fairfield, it would have been the number 5 seed.
I would have felt a lot smarter.
Right. They didn't get off to a great start this year. Some of that was they went on a long road trip where they played in an MTE down in Cancun, and then they went on a road trip where they played at South Carolina, at Ole Miss, at Iona in a span of 7 days. And they got really beat up during that trip. They did not shoot the ball well earlier in the year. They've shot it a little bit better since the calendar turned to January, but they're not a great 3-point shooting team. And teams have keyed in on those guys too, right? Dwight Murray surprised a lot of people last year, right? I don't know how many people, watched him play at Incarnate Word. And then all of a sudden he shows up in the MAC and he plays really well. And he's had moments this year where he has done those things that he did last year. And Vaughn has, he's more or less been the guy that, he was when he was at Ryder his first go around. He's a stat stuffer. He's a good defensive player. He has not shot the ball well from three as well as he did before he left. So I think that's, that's a big thing as well. But I think for Ryder, the real key guy, and you guys from Monmouth saw it yesterday, is Mervyn James. When Mervyn James can stay on the floor and not be in foul trouble, he averages one foul like every 6 minutes per game. I think he's got 12 foul outs this year, which it's got to be the most in the country. It's, but you saw yesterday when he is on the floor, he is a plus for Ryder. And if he could average 32 minutes a game instead of 23 minutes a game because he's not in foul trouble, I mean, that's 9 more minutes with him on the floor. I mean, he's a difference maker for them. He's tough. He's strong. He can score at the basket. He's got a nice little mid-range game. He's a good free throw shooter. I'd like to see him expand his game out in the offseason. He can make some 3-point shots. It's not a real huge part of his game. I think if he could extend his range out a little bit in the offseason, that would make him an even tougher matchup for teams. Sure. But to me, he is the key guy for Ryder because if he's on the floor, he's a plus.
Third guy. So switch over to Guy. Guy, I know that you are afraid of no one. No one scares you in the MAC this year. You are on record of saying Iona will only beat Iona. They only beat themselves this year. So question for you, who would you rather have out of that 8-9 game? Manhattan or Ryder?
Oh, I don't think it matters, honestly. And here's why I say that. I want to add a little context to what I said there too. Iona was not a great road team this year. And all those losses happened in the MAC on the road. Iona just struggled on the road, and they lost the game to St. Louis. The St. Louis game they played was the only non-conference road game they played, and the rest were just 10 MAC games. And only one of the MAC wins on the road for Iona was double figures, and that was the Quinnipiac game. Quinny was leading that game with about 8 minutes to go. So Iona didn't have any easy games on the road in the MAC this year. Every game was a struggle. They just struggled with that aspect of it. And of course, when everybody's schedules came out in October or whenever the MAC released their schedule, everybody's like, okay, when's Iona coming in? Oh, great. Let me circle that. Iona got everybody's best without question. I mean, Manhattan was playing terrible basketball. They got slaughtered by St. Peter's just 2 days before. You can't tell me they were not looking past St. Peter's to play Iona. And they played their butts off against us, and Fairfield, played their butts off against us. So did Niagara, so did Siena, so did all these games that were real tight ones. Everybody gave us everything they had, and yet we still won games. Or if we lost, they were obviously close games. Nobody blew us out or anything like that. To me, that means that in a neutral site setting that's not going to have a ton of fans, and quite frankly, I was actually pretty darn good in neutral sites as well this year. Of course, they were perfect at home, but they only lost 2 neutral site games, and that was Belmont and some team named Kansas. And then again, they beat teams like Yale and Delaware and on neutral sites, and of course, they lost the Seton Hall game, which would have been another great neutral site opportunity. I'm absolutely fine. I mean, they lost due to atmosphere, due to energy on the road and things like that as much as anything else. So that's why, to me, and then of course there's the law of averages and percentages too. What are the odds Manhattan's going to beat Iona a second time? What are the odds? Iona is clearly the better team. What are the odds Manhattan can beat them again after just beating them? I think it's pretty slim. I'm not going to say I'm more worried about Ryder based on that. Everybody knows I have this sweep theory about how hard it is to beat somebody 3 times. That usually only applies when the teams are pretty equal. And even, hate to say it, some guy named Rick Pitino actually said the same exact thing in Iona's presser yesterday. So I'm really not worried about. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. I tell you, the press conference was having a blast. I know Kyle got a chance to experience it this year. It's like a masterclass in basketball when you have a press conference with Pitino. But when I say I'm nearly not worried about either team in that regard. I really don't expect. I'm not going to say that I guarantee Iona's going to win the tournament. I just don't think they would lose in the quarterfinals.
Sure. So Kyle, I don't know if you do predictions for games, if that's part of your shtick
They
or not,
only get me in trouble.
but I know you said you don't really have a feeling one way or the other. If you want to give us who you think gets through, Manhattan or Ryder, you can. If you want to say I'll plead the fifth and we'll go on, we will move on.
I'll say this. There is one interesting thing I want to say. Watching Manhattan, obviously, Ant Nelson has been out, I think, with an injury. Samir Stewart has been out for most of the year. I don't know the status of those guys, but one thing I found interesting is, at least in the Ryder game, I thought Manhattan played better once Nelson got ejected, which was interesting to me because they only have one guy who plays one-on-one, and Perez. And and they can kind of move off of him, right? And he's a very good passer. So yeah, he pounds the ball a lot, but now you only have one guy who plays one-on-one as opposed to two. And I wonder if sometimes your offense works a little better. Not to take anything, like Ant Nelson's a really talented guy. And I thought he had a good season last year for Manhattan. And maybe he's given up some shots because they brought in Perez, who's leading the league in scoring. But I just thought the way they moved off the ball, because Perez attracts so much attention. Sometimes you have to send a help guy for him. He can back guys down. I actually thought they played better, but look, I haven't seen a lot of Manhattan since Nelson's been out injured. So we'll see what happens. That was just something interesting I thought and that again, it was a small sample size in the second half of the Ryder game. So I'll be interested to see what happens if whether he can go or not.
Yeah, so you heard it. Hot take here. Manhattan will be easier to defeat for Ryder if Ant Nelson doesn't play. How about that, Bud? No, I'm just,
I have one point I want to make too.
Ant Nelson plays. If Ant Nelson plays, they will be
I don't know about that. That was something. Look, again, small sample size in that game where Manhattan just happened to start playing better. I don't know if that's an overall trend, though.
Absolutely. All right, so
I just want to make one point before we move on. After Niagara beat Iona, after Siena beat Iona, both of those teams played poorly after that. They elevated themselves. It was almost like they won a championship. I remember Siena was dancing in the locker room, pouring drinks all over Carmen, all that stuff. That's something to watch with Manhattan. They haven't played now since that Iona game. I actually think Ryder's going to win this game.
Interesting.
Let's get Drew involved here. So let's skip to the bottom of the bracket. And we got Marist versus Quinnipiac. And, Quinnipiac is definitely the most underachieved team so far this year. We were talking a little bit about it before we came on the air. And you have Marist that has had one of the weirdest seasons that we've seen in the MAAC in a long time. I'm looking at their schedule now. They lose 5 in a row at the end of January. Then they rile off 6 wins in a row. And then they close the season getting swept up at Buffalo and just getting destroyed by Niagara yesterday when they were playing for a bye. They included 2 wins versus Monmouth that was like combined 60 some points. I mean, they just had the strangest season, and they seem they can turn on at any minute and just collapse at any minute. There's other teams you can say that, you can say it about Monmouth too, but Marist, I think, is the weirdest team in the league that I didn't want to play. And then Quinnipiac has so much star power and talent and real camaraderie because they've been together for a while now, even though Marfa left for a year. Those guys have been there for a while. So, Andrew, what's your take on kind of what's going to go down in the second game on Tuesday night?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have mixed feelings. One, because obviously Quinnipiac has been playing so poorly down the stretch recently. But at the same time, man, I can't say that. I actually love our draw. I actually love our draw, man, personally, because to be on a 6-game losing streak heading into the MAAC tournament, I mean, have to potentially see Marist in the first round. And then a Siena team who we don't necessarily know what's going to happen with Anthony Gaines. Like, I love that, And it's crazy because thinking about the way Quinnipiac is playing right now, man, it actually reminds me of my junior year at Quinnipiac. So my junior year at Quinnipiac, that was the 2017-2018 season. It was Baker Dunleavy's first year at the helm. And we literally had lost 7 out of 8 games going into the MAAC tournament. We had lost 3 in a row. The only win we had in our last 8 games of MAAC play was a 1-point victory at home over Manhattan that we barely squeaked out. And we ended up getting into the MAAC tournament, and we ended up winning two games in a row. We upset Canisius, who was the 2 seed. We beat Siena in that first game. And we ended up losing to Fairfield in the semifinals. But, I think we had a great chance to really advance to the championship against Iona that game. I like to say, that was the tour, some ligaments in my ankle. I missed the last 11 games of the season, man. So, you know, I always tell myself if I was healthy, you know, we would have won the MAC that year. But you know, this year reminds me of a lot of that, man, because they're playing poorly. But one thing I know about Coach Dunleavy and the guys in that locker room is that, you know, they believe that they can beat anybody in the MAC. And like you guys, like I kind of spoke about off air, you know, with the amount of shooters that they have over there at Quinnipiac, all it takes is a couple guys to get going from three. And I think that you know, they'll have a chance, man. And when we're looking specifically at this matchup with Marist, you know, they split the season series. Obviously, Quinnipiac was able to win by 7 on their home court, and Marist, you know, squeaked out a 1-point win at home. You know, for me, I think that honestly, Quinnipiac really should have won both of those games against Marist this year. So I'm actually thinking that Quinnipiac is going to, you know, get the victory. I guess we can call it an upset since they are the 11th seed. I'm picking them to upset Marist in the first round. And you know, honestly, I like our chances against Siena too in that second matchup. You know, I don't know if we're going to talk about that later or not, but I don't know, man. I think that Quinnipiac, despite the fact they're not playing well, man, I think that they're in a great spot to kind of make some noise in Atlantic City.
So from an X's and O's standpoint, this is quite a drastic non-parallel of two coaches. You have John Dunn that wants to beat you up, slow down the game, bully you, you know, utilize his newly found fullback shooting guard Ituka, the way that he used to use, the way that Brian Parker was used many years ago up at Marist. And then you have Quinnipiac, who wants to go 4 out, 1 in. When Marfo's not in, it's 5 out, none in. They want to spread you out. They want to get up and down the floor. Quinnipiac has been, I agree, the biggest underachiever. They passed the eye test, Andrew. When you watch the players, you watch guys like Jones, who I think has steadied the point guard position for the first time since Rich Kelly took his talents up to BC. Marfo coming back. Marfo, I watched Marfo a couple times, and I think he hasn't done well this year. And then you look, and he's 10-10. He's a walking double-double still. Belanc, Shinnery, who I think is just fantastic. And then we didn't even talk about the second biggest question from a personnel issue going into Atlantic City is Williams going to play? You have any inside info on that, Drew?
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna play. I know he had a knee injury in that game against Manhattan, and you know, I don't think it's looking too good for him during the MAC tournament unless he pulls a, you know, Willis Reed and something miraculous happens. But you know, I think they're most likely going to be without him, man. But you know, it's interesting what you said about Kevin Marfo, man. I mean, like you said, he's essentially a walking double-double, but he's also, I believe, 3rd in the MAC in assists, you know, this year. Like he's leading the conference in rebounding, and he's 3rd in assists. And the one biggest, you know, difference I kind of see in his game from, you know, this year and then when he was there before is that, like, he's Quinnipiac's primary facilitator as far as offensively getting guys shots, you know, and making plays, you know. And I think I know we kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I mean, as far as I think we're going to mention kind of X factors, he's absolutely the X factor for Quinnipiac. I mean, in their 12 wins this season, 8 of those games that they've won, he's been in double figures. And on this last, you know, 6-game losing streak, he's had 5 straight performances where he's been in single digits. Outside of the 120-point game he had the first game when they lost to Manhattan. But I mean, he's going to have to score more. You know, I think obviously especially if they're going to be without Tyrese Williams, man, like, he absolutely going to have to shoulder more of the scoring load in MAC tournament and kind of be dominant. You know, at the end of the day, like, you know, he's averaging 10 rebounds a game. So he's going to try to turn some of those offensive rebounds into layups and putbacks for Quinnipiac, because, you know, one thing for sure, man, like you guys mentioned about John Dunn's teams, man, those guys are going to defend. You know, they're scrappy. And I know for sure they're going to try to take away threes. So, you know, Quinnipiac has to find some ways to get easy baskets, man. And that's going to start with Kevin Marfo being able to offensive rebound, get layups, and kind of create extra possessions for them. You know, because I think that's the best chance that they're going to have to kind of pull out this upset in the first round.
I'll tell you the best chance you have to pull out an upset is for Ryan Kinghorn to talk a little junk on Jacob Rigoni. He did that before Monmouth played Quinnipiac, and Rigoni had the game of his life. He had 9 threes, 27 points. He was crossing half court and just flicking the wrist, and it was going in. And you know, I happened to see the young man walking out in the beautiful streets of Albany the next day, and kind of had told him what a great job he did. And I was just thinking, boy, he must have just heard that. Ryan had given that whiteboard material the first time we got ourselves in trouble, I believe, on the Monmouth podcast with opposition, not with our own coach. We get in trouble with him all the time, but with the opposition, I believe it was the first time we got in trouble. And he's a guy, when you look at this roster, he's almost a forgotten man. And, you know, he could be a guy out of nowhere. He comes in there. It reminds me like Colin Stewart was on those loaded Monmouth teams. Comes in and all of a sudden it's boop, boop, boop. He's got 9 points real quick. And, you know, you go from being down 7 to being up 2. I don't know if Marist has that many guys who could do that. And I think that what you had said about Quinnipiac ripe for an upset, Jaden Daly actually on Guys Iona Hoops podcast, which everyone should take a listen to as well on their long ride down to Atlantic City. You listen to us, you listen to him, you'll be fully informed with a lot of bad predictions and bad takes by all of us by the time you get down there, because we know the MAAC's going to MAAC and nothing is going to make any sense once you get down there. However, the ball is rolling for the coldest team in the MAAC right now to be the darling of the upset picks, much like Canisius was in the 6-11 game as the 6 last year. Didn't work out for them, but I would love to see Quinnipiac get that matchup with Siena just to watch Marfo and Stormo match up in a flashback to almost 90s, early 2000s big man matchup that would be highlighted. I think that would be terrific. And like you said, if Gaines is out, I speak the world of Anthony Gaines. The Siena fans were beating that kid down from the start this year. Those people just don't appreciate what they have in their coach, in the way that he reshaped that roster, in the talent and the level of kids that they have, and the ability that they have. You know, I don't know. They are the ones who always said they were going to be moving on to a bigger conference. I thought the A10 was going to be calling, but somehow Monmouth is going to the CAA and they're stuck in the MAAC. I would love to see. I hate Quinnipiac from the years of the NEC and the MAAC, but I hate Siena fans. So I would love to see Quinnipiac upset Siena. And I think Andrew is right. If Gaines is not playing, also, I was privy to, I'm not so much of a analytics guy, but when you look at KenPom and their take on Siena, they only have about 100 teams that they're better than in all of Division One. They have about 250th ranked based on the numbers. So maybe Carm is doing it with smoke and mirrors. Maybe the Siena fans are right to be backing the bus up over him like they always say. I don't know. I think the guy's a good coach. I think he reshaped the roster really well. But if you take Gaines out of that lineup, that moves everybody else into a bigger spot. And you know that come playoff time, that's really hard to have other guys step up. So really great stuff by Drew.
I have one other point to back Drew's prediction. You know, the one thing about Marist that worries me, I'm always wary about teams who are led by freshmen in a tournament setting. So it's something to watch.
So Frank couldn't make it. We have no expert on Fairfield Canisius. I almost feel like, no disrespect to Fairfield and Canisius, but I feel like either one of those teams that gets out of that game is probably going to get whipped by St. Peter's. And I'm sure the Fairfield fans will have the stakes at me after, you know, I kind of disregarded them against Monmouth in the opener last year. However, I know Canisius has been hot. Malik Green is back. And, you know, he has rounded into form. I thought he was going to be one of the top 10 players in the league this year. And then he had some injuries, I believe COVID as well. And, you know, he's getting into form. Anyone who'd like to weigh in on Fairfield Canisius for us, because I am by far not an expert on either of them. I don't watch much of Canisius and Fairfield for the whole year. I thought they stink. I had said it from the beginning. I just thought Monmouth had a terribly off night last year. And those guys just out physicaled Monmouth last year. Never believed in that core of Fairfield. I still don't believe in them. Frank, I'm sorry, but you know what? You don't come on the Zoom. This is what happens. We beat you, your fan base, the brand new arena. We beat it all down here right now, Frank, because you're not here. All right. But if someone would like to weigh in on the Fairfield Canisius matchup, that would
just real quick. There's two teams that when you watch them, nothing about them really scares you. Like there's talent there. They're not bad teams. They just, nothing really jumps off the page where you're worried about a Marfo or you're worried about this guy or that. Like, nothing really scares you about them, but they always find ways to kind of stay in games longer than they should. So when you see the schedule, like you see them play tight 3, 4, 5 point games against the top half of the league, You're like, oh wow, they're actually staying close. Had Canisius down by a bunch of points a few weeks ago, and they creeped their way back into the game. It's just kind of always what they do. Both matchups for us versus Fairfield were pretty close. So nothing really scares you about them, but you kind of got to worry because they're going to stay in the game probably when they play St. Peter's. And then eventually, I mean, I can't imagine Holloway losing that game. I just, with the Seton Hall and other jobs in line for him, and a chance to move up, and that team is a really, really tough basketball team as we saw twice this year. I just don't see a way either of them pulls out against St. Peter's. And I think if they had a different matchup, maybe against Siena, where they might be beaten up a little bit, or Niagara, and they might have a chance. But I don't see Seton Hall lose to either of them.
Anybody going to step up and pick Fairfield or Canisius over St. Peter's?
No.
With hands.
Well, although look, I mean, Fairfield did it last year. Like Fairfield could get hot from three. Fairfield has guys who can make threes. Wojcik, Long killed Ryder the other night. He made 7 threes in the game. We always talk about the MAC being about matchups. Well, Ryder is probably glad it's not playing Fairfield because for whatever reason, that was a bad matchup for them. Taj Benning, he's kind of got that funky low release where it kind of flicks it, but it seems to go in a lot. So they have guys who can make threes. And obviously, if you can do that and get hot, you can give yourself a chance in any game.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll say too, man, like I feel like for me, man, like being at the MAC tournament last year and watching Fairfield advance to the MAC championship, like even in, like I said, that year, 2017, 2018, when they beat us in the semifinals, they kind of just found a way. I remember the whole way, I'm like, dude, we're going to crush Fairfield. Like, there's no way we're going to, it's like they just find a way to win games, man. Like, obviously, like you said, man, Jesus Cruz has been there forever. Taj Benning has been there forever. Wojcik was there last year. Like, they have guys who have been there before, have made runs in the MAC tournament. So, I mean, I think we can't count that out, man. I think that Jay Young did a great job last year and kind of coaching them to the, the MAC championship game last year, man. And I'm just not going to sit here and say, oh, they don't have a chance, man, because we've seen them do this before in the MAC tournament, make improbable runs when nobody really saw it coming, man. And like I said, those guys that are on their team, the guys, that have been there for a while, man, have done it before, man. I know that they're going to come into the MAC tournament, with confidence. So I'm not saying I'm going to pick them to beat St. Peter's, but I'm not going to sit here and say that they don't have a chance either. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I think they could beat Canisius. I'll say that. But
yeah.
St. Peter's over the final 3 games of the regular season was allowing under 45 points per game. Their defense is locked in. They are, I mean, hey, you might have shooters, but St. Peter's is going to take away shooters. St. Peter's is going to take away everything you do. St. Peter's, I think, and this is hard for me to say as a Monmouth fan, is probably the biggest threat to Iona because of the different styles in the way that St. Peter's does it. I know, whether you say Siena, whether you say Quinnipiac coming out from the bottom of the bracket, does anyone see St. Peter's not making the championship game?
I think it's possible. This is, again, we saw it last year. They played Fairfield and lost. I mean, here's the problem with St. Peter's. They don't have just dudes who can score. We know that tournament play is always more of a half court style. It's a grind, and stars step up and make plays. And Defo, as great as he isn't a pure scorer like that. And I'm not sure if they have one that's a pure scorer like that. So
the only guy that comes to mind for me, is Banks. I think Banks is the guy that can go get his own shot, get his own bucket, but you need more than one guy in those big situations.
Yeah. And I think that's the hazard with a team like them that's so one-sided in their approach in terms of, they have a top 70 defense in the country, but they also have an offense that's like in the bottom third easily. So, I'm not 100% locked in on them getting out of there, especially this is the MAC. We see let's just say this. I think if there's a half of the bracket that blows up, it's this half.
Yeah, baby, we're busting the bracket up. I'm telling you.
That would be fun. That would be fun to see.
So we're getting a Quinnipiac Fairfield semifinal on the side, right?
Never know.
I have to say that when I look at this side of the bracket, it looks to me like if Gaines doesn't play, especially, St. Peter's got a really, really favorable draw, and Monmouth dropped the ball significantly by not getting in a 2 or a 3 seed by losing those 2 games back to back with St. Peter's and Siena have only themselves to blame. But it looks to me like on paper, and obviously when we all fill out any bracket, we feel so confident about it. And then, we start Xing and this and that and circles and arrows and we're all getting it wrong. But whether it's Siena, whether it's Marist, whether it's Quinnipiac, Fairfield, Canisius, unless Gaines is 100%, I really don't see anybody beating St. Peter's unless like a guy Filatico stance. St. Peter's kind of beats themselves by not making shots. So I think that's the only way. But I think that St. Peter's will ugly up enough games here when they're not playing well. I think that the talent level sans Gaines isn't there for anybody to knock them off on that side. And I think you'll see St. Peter's there in the championship Saturday, March 12th.
And I hate to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. If Siena and St. Peter's make it to the semis, Siena's strength on defense is taking away the three. And that's really how St. Peter's scores. That's why Siena was able to sweep them. Mm-hmm. So, and that's another thing, that's something to watch too, is that, I mean, Gaines obviously makes a big difference, but that's another reason. I hate to say it. I'm not going to want to pat my friends from Siena on the back, but they have a great chance if they're facing St. Peter's in that semifinal.
Yeah, if Gaines is there, I think it's more of a toss-up, but he does so much for them. Kyle, St. Peter's, you're really dialed into New Jersey college basketball. Do you see them coming out of this side of the bracket, and can they take down the almighty Iona if they get there in the championship, or Monmouth or Niagara? We haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah, I do like St. Peter's on that side of the bracket. I just think the way they play defense, the way they get up into you, will make it very difficult for teams to score, even in the half court. I think they'll have to do a good job on the glass, St. Peter's. Like, I think they can get on the offensive glass with Drame, and Defo and the Drame, the Drame twins. Right? Yeah. I think that they can get on the offensive glass too and create second chance opportunities. And then they're going to have to make timely shots. Banks, and Eddard and Matthew Lee. Those are really the three guys they have who can make 3-point shots. If they can make timely ones, I do like St. Peter's on that side of the bracket. And because of the way they can defend, in the way that it can kind of get the game to sort of muck up the game, so to speak. Like, I think they can draw you into a low scoring game, which by nature will be close and within a couple of possessions.
Andrew, a question for you. If Shaheen Holloway makes the MAAC title game, even if he doesn't win it, does that cement the offers for much bigger jobs this offseason?
I mean, I think it should already be cemented, even if he doesn't make it there. But, just based on what he's been able to do at St. Peter's with the lack of resources. I mean, we've all been to St. Peter's before.
It looks a little bit nicer now, though. I'll give
them. It's a little nicer. They give a little facelift, but it's still like a rec league gym in there. I mean, it looks a little nicer, but I think that what he's been able to do there, despite all of that, is amazing, man. And I think if he makes it to the MAAC championship game, I think that'll just be a cherry on top. But I think he's been a name that people have been kind of talking about in the coaching carousel for the last couple of years. So I think if he's able to make a run this year, that'll only kind of lock it up a little bit. But I think for him, man, I think the job that he's already done has been exceptional, man. And even when he was at Seton Hall, I mean, everybody knew that he was kind of one of the main reasons why they had a lot of success that they did while he was there. So I think he's well deserving of a promotion. Even if he gets upset by my Quinnipiac Bobcats, it'll be all right. He's still deserving.
Little known fact: Shaheen Holloway was my first favorite college basketball player when I was a little Mark watching Seton Hall. Loved him when they made the run in the NCAA tournament to, I believe it was a Sweet 16. He was tough as nails. He was my favorite. So now to see him coach, I just love everything he embodies on the sideline, the way that the kids react to him, his player development. Because to be honest, outside of the Drame twins, which he got the really good Drame twin because he wanted to play with his brother, that's his only big recruiting hit that he's had over the level of the MAAC so far. So he's just done a fantastic job in a really tough occupation there. So Monmouth fans are going, all right, we've heard about every single team and every single matchup in the bracket. Ryan, Mark, we stick with you all year long. You're making us wait. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan and let him give some on Monmouth Niagara. I'll jump in a little bit, and then we will please listen to Andrew, Guy, and Kyle give you their picks for another really tough for quarterfinal game. Sorry.
So this has been a complete roller coaster year for Monmouth. We start 10-2, 10-3 early on, one of the best free throw shooting teams in the country. I mean, they really looked good early in the season. Everybody was kind of talking, hashtag 2-bid MAAC with us and Iona. And then we hit a COVID pause. We were out for 3 full weeks, and the team just never really fully recovered from that. We kind of gave them a week to get back, where some fans kind of jumped on them a little bit, but we kind of took a wait and see approach. They lost 3 games in a row. The disaster versus Marist, a tough one to St. Peter's, and then an overtime to Iona, which I actually made a mistake. I told my friends to bet Iona that day, whatever the spread was, because I'm like, it's our 3rd game in 5 days. We're coming off of COVID and a 35-point loss to Marist. There's no way we stick with Iona for this game, and we took them to overtime and played well. But it's just been one of those seasons where you think they're just about to start to get it together, and they lose a game they're not supposed to lose. And overall, they've been good against the bottom half of the MAAC, but the top half, they've really struggled. They have gone, I think, 2-8 against the top 5. So it's been kind of that kind of a season. And, we were waiting all week to see who we were going to get. And we kind of blew it last weekend with 2 losses to Siena and St. Peter's. I was hoping for Fairfield. They would pull off the miracle against St. Peter's on the road, and everything kind of aligned for a Fairfield matchup. It didn't happen. I think it's the second best case scenario. We did not want Marist. They're not the most talented team, and I think Niagara is actually more talented than Marist, but John Dunn's got our number, and it's nothing new, because even at St. Peter's, he always kept us in the 40s and 50s, and he's tortured King Rice. He's got a couple wins against John, but John Dunn has tortured us since we got in the MAAC. And so I think we're happy to not be playing them. But Niagara's a good basketball team, and I think Greg Paulus has done a solid job up there. I think they definitely could have had more wins than they even did. I mean, you're looking at guys like Kwaka and Cintron and Roberts, and then the top guy, Marcus Hammond, who can go for 30 any night. It's not an easy team to play against, especially a late night, Thursday night game. It's going to be very, very difficult against Niagara. I do think we'll come out with a win there, but it's going to be a dogfight till the very end. The first time at Niagara this year, I think it was an 8-point win for us. We were kind of surprised with how well we played. And then it was kind of before the COVID pause. And then we get them at home. No Shavar Reynolds, huge loss for us. He had a shoulder issue going on then. And then we get it to overtime, and they come back, and we decided to trap in the backcourt, which we still don't really know why. They find the open man, swing it down the court to Roberts, and he had 0 points in the night. Our student section was destroying him the entire night. And just as fitting as it was, he's sitting there right in front of our student section, 2 feet in front of those guys, and he bangs a 3 at the buzzer. And it was a heartbreaker for Monmouth. And it's one of the losses you look back on where we could have jumped up to that 2 or 3 seed. We said it back then. We're probably going to look back at this one. I do like our chances in this game, but it really comes down to Monmouth's top 3 or 4 guys putting the ball in the basket. If Walker Miller is hitting his hook shot, floater, whatever you call it, that he does, and no one seems to be able to replicate. If he's putting that in early in the game, they're going to be tough to stop, because it's going to open up everything else for Pappas running around screens and hitting threes, and Shavar doing his thing, hitting threes, driving through the lane, getting McClary and those guys open. If Walker Miller gets going early, I think that's the key for Monmouth. If he doesn't, and Monmouth winds up in a dogfight where, Pappas is getting face guard and can't get open, and everybody else is kind of frozen at that point, and they get down early, it's going to be an uphill battle. But I think if they get Walker Miller going early, Monmouth's got a pretty good shot in this one.
Kyle, I have a question for you. Does Walker Miller's season at Monmouth remind you of Lopez's season at Rider?
Yeah, a little bit, because he's a 1-year guy. And he's a big guy with some skill and some good touch around the rim. And I think he's been a pleasant surprise, right? Like, I don't think people really knew what to expect, because he didn't play that much at North Carolina. He was, he was a walk-on. I think
64 career minutes.
Yeah, so he didn't play that much. Obviously, you look and you see he's 6'11", and there's some size there. But yeah, he comes in, and I think he's been a really pleasant surprise, and he obviously gives you a scoring punch on the block that you wouldn't have had without him, and another dimension to that team. You have to pay attention to him, and then he can also step outside. He can make some 3-point shots. And he's a nice complement to Reynolds and Pappas and McClary. And it's a very veteran and experienced team that you have at Monmouth.
Yeah, so I remember that year when Lopez came into Ryder, and I didn't have my finger on the pulse of incoming transfers like I do now. And that dude showed up, and I was like, whoa, he's a 7-footer that has skill. He made Oki Raffer better. He made them all better. And I believe Ryder was like the number 2 seed going into the MAAC tournament. And then he had gotten injured. And
Yeah, actually, I don't remember if Andrew played in that game or not, but he had got injured on a freak play against Quinnipiac, where he kind of crashed into the basket stanchion. I don't know if Andrew was at Quinnipiac then yet or not.
Yeah, I think it had to be my freshman year. I think I remember that. Was that my freshman year or my postgraduate year? But even my postgraduate year, I felt like I went to Quinnipiac. I was at Putnam Science Academy, so I was at Quinnipiac every week for. So I remember him for sure.
But yeah, it was a kind of a freak play where he ended up tearing his ACL against Quinnipiac late in the year and couldn't play in the MAAC tournament. And then obviously, we all know Ryder's history in the MAAC tournament for the last 9 years or so. They got John Dunn in the quarterfinal rounds.
So Walker Miller has kind of masked a lot of things for this Monmouth roster. Monmouth fans get at Ryan and I all the time. Why isn't King Rice running anything? Where are the set plays? How come they can't find George Pappas and get him open like other teams get their shooters open? How come there's not space for Shavar Reynolds to beat people off the dribble and finish? Why is there a second and third defender? And they get on us. And listen, X's and O's wise, I don't think Monmouth runs the best stuff in the league. I don't think that's I'm saying anything out of turn that anyone hasn't said before. However, Walker Miller is the most unique offensive player that I think I've ever seen at 6'10" or higher, with the fact that he throws a flip, runner, hook shot, uses the backboard, uses either hand. It's almost like he gets you with the element of surprise with his offense. And because of his size and his length, there's not a lot of guys that can match it in the MAAC. When Walker Miller has it going, like Ryan had said, that opens everything else up for the other guys in the Monmouth offense. And the Monmouth offense becomes more free-flowing, and there's more natural progression with backdoor cuts, back screens, free-flowing offense, and playing off of even sometimes Walker Miller has demanded a double team this year, which no one had expected going into the season. Monmouth is 12-3 this year when they score 70 or more points. There is no surprise that when they are not shooting the ball well and they are not scoring the ball at a high clip, they are not winning. So in order to defeat Niagara, who averages about 68 points a game, Iona, or anybody else down in Atlantic City, the magic number is 70 or more for Monmouth. And how you got to get to that 70 is you need 50 plus from the big three of Miller, Reynolds, and Pappas. The only reason Reynolds with his shoulder, and then the fact that he passes up so many shots, I blame Kevin Willard, because Kevin Willard must have messed with his head. Told him you can't shoot all these shots. You got to play defense and be a bulldog and distribute the ball. The kid is so damn good, and he comes up the floor, and it's there. And then he's looking this way and looking that way and making the extra pass. He's too unselfish. Going down to Atlantic City from Manchester, it's about an hour from home. All right? Pretend it's high school basketball again. Shoot every shot, Shavar. Take over Atlantic City. He can do it, and he has it consistently, and it's there. He's one of the top 5 players in the MAAC. He's the only one stopping himself. All right, Guy will say that Iona is the only way to stop Iona. St. Peter's the only way to stop St. Peter's. The way for Monmouth to be stopped is Shavar doesn't take 15 or more shots. Let's take 15 or more. George Pappas, he's going to get his shots up. It doesn't matter. All right, that kid's shooting 12 or more every game. I think he's top 10 in the nation in three-pointers attempted. Okay, George is getting his shots up. Walker Miller gets more open and easy shots for those two guys. They need 50 or more combined by those three guys. Then they need either Marcus McClary or Miles Foster to get into double figures. And then you mix and match another 10 points or so, and you're at 70. That's the recipe for success for Monmouth down in Atlantic City. Niagara, interestingly enough, lately has been starting Roberts and starting a 3-guard lineup with Hammond almost a de facto 3 when he's running the baseline, and then 1 when he's facilitating at 6'4". I love Marcus Hammond. Last year when we did this this preview show with Nwandu in tow, I picked Niagara to upset Iona and win the whole thing. Okay, because I love Nwandu. I thought he was a top 8 player in the league, if not top 5 last year. Marcus Hammond is the second biggest recruiting miss of King Rice's tenure at Monmouth. RJ Cole's number 1. Marcus Hammond is number 2. Marcus Hammond was begging to come to Monmouth. He was following around Ray Salnave with the Monmouth t-shirt on from Cardozo. He wanted to come to Monmouth. King Rice has admitted he dropped the ball on that one. Marcus Hammond sees King Rice, and it's almost like he sees blood in the water.
Lights it up.
Right? He lights it up. And he wants to show with every dribble, every pass, every rebound, steal, assist, shot, point, three-pointer, fadeaway, drive, lefty, scoop. He wants to prove to King Rice that he messed up by not taking him. Marcus Hammond is going to have his pick of the nation next year on where to play. Okay? He can go pro. He can go to Europe. He can go to the G League. He can go play pretty much anywhere next year, not just Niagara. He is going to be heavily courted. This probably and hopefully will be the last game we see him in a MAAC uniform. And that kid has a statement to prove when he looks over at that Monmouth bench and sees all the guys that were recruited over him and the guys that didn't recruit him and didn't accept the kid's begging to come to the program. He's begging you. Let me be a part of the program like my big brother, Ray Salnave. I want to go here. And you don't do it. So there's motivation there.
I wish we were at a point in New Jersey for gambling where you could bet on a player in New Jersey, because I mean, odds are these sports books aren't going to understand what Marcus Hammond does to Monmouth on a year-to-year basis, but it'll probably be about 18.5, 19.5 points. And you could bet whatever you want on it. Like, I don't care. He's going to score 20 points or more on Thursday night. And we just have to hope it's not 30, 35 and hope it's like 20, 25. And we hold everybody else down to the low 60s. But I mean, he does it every year to us. And one more thing about Monmouth, they've got to shoot free throws. They take a lot of free throws. I mean, Kyle probably saw it yesterday, you know, the way we were struggling at the line. It's been a thing for us since the COVID pause. I mean, in the first half of the year, we were like 5th or 6th in the country, shooting over 80% as a team. And you knew it was going to come down to earth a little bit, but since the COVID pause, I don't know if their legs aren't under them or they've lost confidence. It's a mental thing. I don't know what it is. But besides Shavar and Pappas, I mean, nobody is shooting free throws well for Monmouth right now. You know, Walker has been very shaky. He'll make a couple here and there, and then he'll miss 3 in a row. And, you know, Chapu and Ruddy and everybody else, I mean, no one is shooting free throws right now for Monmouth. I mean, that's a huge thing. So if you're in a game and you're in a race to get to 70, if you leave 9 or 10 on the table with free throws, that's going to be the difference against a team like Niagara. So if Monmouth can shoot it 75, 80% in that game, they'll be fine. But if they're down in the 60s like they've been a lot in February, we only shot 70 or more in a game. I think a quarter of our games are less in the whole month of February. So if that's how it's going to be, they're going to have a tough time against Niagara. If they can shoot at 75, 80, they should beat Niagara.
Yeah, and one of the big things was Walker Miller was high 80s, low 90s through the first like 11 games of the season.
Low 70s.
And ever since that Hofstra game, he's been in the 60s. So that's a huge swing when you got a low post guy who's, you know, your dominant focal point on how you run your whole offense through. And you had a 7-footer shooting it at 80, 90% from free throw line and then falling off. Last thing for me, Marcus McClary's the X factor for Monmouth. I think he's going to draw the #1 defensive assignment on Marcus Hammond. It's been Pappas in the past, but they were starting a big wing Brown earlier in the year. He hasn't played lately. I don't know if he got hurt. He's a freshman. Now you're starting Roberts. You got a small guard there. I think that you have put McClary on Hammond, and then there's pressure on McClary or Foster. You got to score 10 or more. I don't know if Marcus McClary will have enough left in him with the amount of shots he's going to have to chase down with Marcus Hammond. I mean, Marcus Hammond's probably going to throw up 20 shots in this game. So McClary might be dead on the other end of the floor, but you know what? They're going to need everything out of him in order to get out of this one. And I'd love to turn it on to our panel with what you guys think so that we're not looking through the navy blue and white glasses here of Monmouth and hearing from some other unaffiliated parties here.
Well, I'll say, but before I give my my take and my prediction, man, that's a hilarious Marcus Hammond story. I never knew he wanted to come to Monmouth, and it actually reminds me of the E.J. Crawford story, because E.J. Crawford is from Hartford, Connecticut, and literally like wanted to come to Quinnipiac so bad. Like he came to all of our elite camps. Like he was at all of our games. He knew a bunch of our players. And Tom Moore never offered him. Or if he offered him, I think he offered him like real late. And I know for a fact, like every time he played Quinnipiac, like he would score and look at the bench and talk to Coach Moore or whatever. And obviously he ended up going to Iona, winning 3 MAAC championships. And, you know, Coach Moore ended up losing his job, man. I'm just like, dang, man, some of these recruiting stories are just absolutely brutal, man. You know, recruit a kid and it arguably could have costed you your job, man, that literally would have probably came to Quinnipiac just if he offered him. Yes, he would have came the same day. But, you know, it goes that way sometimes. It's crazy. But as far as this Monmouth and Manhattan game, you know, I think Monmouth's gonna pull this out. You know, I think you know, I'm sure the Monmouth fans on here will enjoy hearing that. But I think this, you know, we had Monmouth ranked in our All Facts Media Top 25 mid-major poll early on in the year. You know, so we were heavy on the Monmouth bandwagon, and I'm not gonna jump off of it yet. I think that there is a reason why a lot of people had this team, you know, picked, you know, second to Iona, man. And one thing I do know about George Pappas and those guys, we had them on our podcast earlier in the year, man, is that those guys have a big time chip on their shoulder, you know, and he's kind of similar to Bergoni in the aspect where like he's gonna chirp if you chirp him or you give him any type of motivation or anything, like, you know, he's gonna run with it, man. It's gonna fuel him. So I think heading into the MAAC tournament, like those guys know what's at stake, and those guys know that they haven't played well, and I also think that, you know, they're going to want to kind of get that matchup with Iona again. You know, they've been talking about that since the beginning of the season, about how, you know, everybody's talking about Iona and this and that. So I think that I think that Monmouth is going to be able to, you know, win this first round matchup over Niagara, and you know, get that matchup against Iona that I know that they've been waiting for since the beginning of the year.
Kansas learned about Pappas with piss him off a little bit, and
Sure did.
No, Cunny was 5 seconds left.
Well, I just think I look at that Monmouth team, and it's a veteran group. It's an experienced group. They start 4 guys who are 5th-year seniors, and I just look at the talent, and I know it's been an up and down year, but I think if it all comes together this week, Monmouth has a chance to win the whole thing. You know, with Reynolds, and if Pappas gets hot, and Walker Miller, we discussed him, and I think McClary is a great glue guy, because he does so many things well. You know, he may not pop on the stat sheet every night, but he can defend the other team's best player. He can make a big shot for you. He's not afraid to take a big shot in that moment, get a key rebound. And then when I look at Niagara, I think, well, first of all, I think Marcus Hammond's going to be the player of the year in the MAAC. And that's not, first of all, that's because he's a really good player. But I also think the coaches will reward him for being at Niagara for 4 years and getting better each year. Like, I don't take anything away from Tyson Jolly, who has been the best player on the best team. And then obviously Jose Perez has led the league in scoring. But I just think Hammond will be rewarded for what he has done for Niagara throughout his career, in addition to him also having a really good season for the Purple Eagles.
Guy, how about your take on your potential, what do we call it, semifinal matchup here? You want Monmouth? Do you want Niagara? Who's going to be there?
Well, I think, let's put it this way. I think Monmouth will be the tougher game for Iona. I think, basing this again on what I said earlier, Niagara, they beat Iona once, and they shot the ball out of their minds to do it. The odds of them doing that again are slim. They do have a dude, as we've talked about with Hammond, that can be that guy that can take over a game. But you know, Iona basically against Niagara up there said, all right, we're going to take away Hammond, let the other guys beat us. The other guys beat us. And then we started trying to take away the other guys, and then Hammond went nuts. So that was like Iona's worst defensive game of the year. In the first meeting, they took away Hammond, tried to make the other guys beat us, and the other guys couldn't beat us. And Iona won by, I think, 23. So I think somewhere in the middle was what would happen if they play again in the semis. I think Monmouth is more capable of playing Iona tight. We've already seen 2 generally competitive games. Iona did push the margin up to double figures, but then, you know, I think the final margin was 8 in the rematch at Hines. You know, but that was, I think Monmouth was shorthanded. Is that right in that game?
Yes. Shavar Reynolds did not play.
That's right. So I think that would be the toughest game Iona can face in the tournament. And a pattern I've noticed, and again, this goes even back to the Cluj years, and when you make a lot of tournament runs like Iona has, sorry guys, it's kind of a pattern. You win the early round games by a lot. You have that absolute war in the semifinals, and then the finals become almost like a coronation. And I almost feel like we're going to have something similar here. If Iona was to do that, is that the game that they will need to survive will be the semifinal game, and I think it'll be against Monmouth.
So interesting for me is that Iona has not done particularly well on the road, like you said. Monmouth has been among the leaders in the nation in road wins. Now, true road wins, okay, this is not necessarily a true road because it's neutral. Hey, at least you're not playing at Siena's home court, but
True.
it is a neutral site. However, it's a neutral site that swings towards the Central Jersey Hawks as far as proximity with geographic location. And I do believe in my heart of hearts that if Monmouth gets by Niagara, you can bet your ass there's going to be a lot of Monmouth fans there for the Iona game on a Friday night in Atlantic City. So I don't know, Guy, my question to you is, what is the expectation for, I would assume Iona is going to travel. The fans are going to travel. Will those fans travel if it's Manhattan? Because that'll be an interesting one because you guys hate Manhattan. Will nobody show up if it's Ryder because there's nothing there? But will they want to come in and get a dig at King Rice one last time and see a little bit of what has truly become a decent MAAC rivalry, albeit mostly one-sided when push comes to shove, biggest games, most important games, but has become a pretty good rivalry? Will the Iona fans show up and show out like I believe the Monmouth fans will in this potential 1-4 matchup?
I do. I think here's the weird thing, and talking to other Iona fans, the schedule benefits the team to have that quarterfinal, then the day off before the semis. Doesn't benefit the fans.
Nope.
So you have diehards like me that are going to go down on Wednesday, but a lot of Iona fans are not going down on Wednesday. They're going to say, well, we'll go down for Friday. And I never bought that. I think that's just a jinx to do that. So I've always said, I'm going down when they first play. That's when I always went to the tournament. And of course, I thankfully have a job where I can do that and I can work remotely and all that other stuff. But yeah, I think Iona fans, if they're around Friday night still, will come down Friday. But I don't think you'd see like the student buses and all that until Saturday. So I think if you see 500 Iona fans at the quarters, it might become 1,500 Iona fans at the semis and 2,500 at the finals.
Okay. I do believe that the schedule behooves Monmouth, where people can come after work on a Thursday, stay over, and then hang around for a 6 p.m. matchup with Iona on a Friday, and then shoot home if you're not going to stay overnight on Friday, or grab a hotel room and stay for the championship on Saturday. Yeah. I think that Monmouth did not do themselves any favors with the fall to the 4-5 matchup as far as bracketing and matchups, but as far as getting as many people from the West Long Branch extended area and Monmouth alumni, Monmouth Nation down there, I think that it sets up really well. I think that there will be a lot of blue and white in that building on Friday, which for lack of anything else, and this is not even selfishly on my part, I just feel like for the MAAC and for the tournament and for the experience for anyone there, Monmouth Iona is much juicier matchup than Iona Niagara.
I agree with that.
So we've gotten through all of the original matchups in the tournament. So let's go around the table real quick, and I guess the Zoom real quick, because we're not even in person. And I'm hoping one day we'll be able to do it in person with the Colonial. That was originally my goal with the MAAC, and unfortunately COVID set us back, and we couldn't do it that year. Last year we were remote, and we're still kind of remote now, but I'm hoping in the future we can actually do something in person. But let's go around real quick. What is, in your opinion, the most likely and the biggest upset in the tournament? This could be in the first round. This could be somebody getting to the finals and blowing somebody's season up. What's the biggest upset that you see happening? Let's start with Drew here.
Yeah, man, I'm just going to double down on my previous take. Quinnipiac is going to upset Marist in the first round. Then they're going to upset Siena in the quarterfinals there. And then we're going to see St. Peter's in the semifinals, and I'm going to go ahead and say that Quinnipiac is going to pull off the upset, make it to the MAAC final, against Iona. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna shoot the lights out against St. Peter's in that semifinal matchup. St. Peter's won't be able to score, and we're gonna be the darling of the MAAC tournament and go ahead and get that matchup against Iona. And from there, we'll see. We'll see what happens from there.
I think Monmouth and Iona fans
Money,
would
as
love
they
that
say.
happening.
It's true.
Be playing with house money.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's see, Guy, what do you got?
I will agree. The winner of Marist Quinnipiac upsets Siena.
Okay. And Guy, what about going through the whole thing there? Since Drew went through the whole thing, will you bring us to your championship matchup and tell us how the Iona will be crowned?
All right. Yes. So staying in that bracket, I don't see St. Peter's getting upset again as a higher seed in the tournament. So I do think they'll make it to the final. And I don't see Iona losing.
I'm gonna stay right in that portion of the bracket. When Guy and I talked 2 weeks ago, I told him I thought Marist was a dangerous team, and Marist, of course, went up to Buffalo and got blown out twice. Welcome to the MAAC, right? But I think Marist coming out of that side of the bracket to play Iona in the MAAC final would be my surprise.
All right, here's mine. St. Peter's is more likely to be in the championship game than Iona, because I think Iona has a more difficult path.
I like it.
But
I hate to not be original.
I'm not gonna pick that Monmouth Iona game. I'm just gonna and pray.
I'll say this. Sometimes I think for the higher seed, for the team that has that the one seed, the 2 seed, the 3 seed, sometimes that quarterfinal game is the toughest game because you're going against an opponent that has already played, has kind of been on the floor, has won a game, has got a sweat inside that neutral venue, is probably feeling good about themselves because they just won a first round game. And I know they're on the second night of that back-to-back, but I've seen it happen before where that team has come in and scored an upset. I think sometimes surviving that quarterfinal round game is the most difficult for that 1, 2, 3 seed.
And I have a weird take on Iona. I actually think their chances of winning are better now than if they were still in line for an at-large berth.
They have to now. They have no choice now.
Right. It's a different mindset.
I get that.
You could always go to the NIT. Host a game at Hines. I know you're not used to that. NCAA.
Yeah, and NIT first round, 4 seed Iona versus 5 seed St. John's. I would take that, though. I would take that, I guess. That would be fun.
I hate to not be original. I kind of see it going that way, too. I see Siena getting upset by Marist or Quinnipiac. I'm kind of hoping it's Quinnipiac because we played them pretty well this year, and we did not play Marist well at all. So I will be very happy to see Quinnipiac hopefully beat Marist. When I first saw the bracket, I saw Manhattan there, and it's very wishful thinking, but because they beat Iona the other day, maybe Masiello's got something up his sleeve. I am not betting on that or counting on it, but maybe Masiello keeps it close again and maybe even just gets Iona a little tired for the second round game and pushes him to overtime or makes him work a little harder. But overall, I mean, I don't see another way out. I don't see Fairfield Canisius beating St. Peter's. The Monmouth Niagara is kind of a wash. It's not an upset. So really, the only way to go is probably that Marist Quinnipiac way. In the end, I do think it's going to be the winner of Monmouth Iona playing St. Peter's. That's really the way I see it going. If Gaines is hurt, I don't think Siena is going to be there. And besides that, listen, I think Monmouth's team where their ceiling is super high and their floor is super low. Like it is not going to shock me one bit if Hammond scores 30 and Niagara ends their season Thursday night. And it's not going to shock me if we're able to beat Iona and then take down St. Peter's or somebody in the final. Neither one of those things would shock me. So I think we have one of the highest ceilings and floor combos out of most teams in the MAAC.
Let me ask you guys something. We talked about that sweep theory before about beating a team that's kind of equal to you 3 times. Are you really, if you were to look up in the finals and see Marist there, you guys would really be thinking, oh my God, we got to play Marist again? I feel like there's no way Marist would beat Monmouth the 3rd time. No way.
It's more of an uncomfortable feeling. Like we know it wasn't just like they beat us by 3 or 4.
No, I know that too. Yeah.
the first time, and this is where King kind of got on all the fans for piling on after COVID, and he had said his things about us or whatever. But that was really the excuse. We're like, okay, we'll give them that. It's the second game in 3 days, off of 3 weeks off. All right, it was a disaster of a game. Their legs weren't under them. Okay, we can accept that. But then the home game we had with them like a month later, it was the same story. And we're like, what the hell just happened? And that COVID excuse wasn't kind of out the window at that point, because really John Dunn's got our number. So it's one of those things, you're not like, oh my God, we can't beat them. But you get a little uncomfortable feeling in your stomach going into the game where, we know what they did to us twice. You'd rather play almost anybody else. I would probably rather play personally Marist over like a St. Peter's, but even Siena without games, I think I'd rather play them than Marist right now, just because of what's happened this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's take it so that it's not a personal thing for you guys. So we have Siena and St. Peter's. Let's assume Gaines is okay. Siena swept St. Peter's.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, all right, well, that ran its course? I mean, St. Peter's is going to win a third matchup.
I think Siena would win if Gaines is there. If Gaines is not there, it shifts towards St. Peter's. But I do think if they're fully healthy, they'll get the better of St. Peter's.
So you think that you think that the whole sweep theory is rubbish?
Not rubbish, but I do think they're just a better team.
Drew, what do you think?
I tend to agree with the sweep theory, man. I think it's tough to beat a team 3 times in a year. Like, if you guys are pretty evenly matched. So like I don't see Siena beating St. Peter's a third time if that would happen. And I don't see, like you asked, I don't see Marist beating Monmouth a third time either if that would happen, despite the margin of defeat. Like, I just don't see it happening, man. So I don't know, man. I think that the third time is a charm for a bunch of these teams, man, including Quinnipiac in the matchup against Siena. Third time is going to be a charm for the Bobcats.
So you heard it here first. Guy says it's really hard to beat the same team 3 times, and Monmouth's 0-2 versus Iona. So Iona is ripe for the upset.
Well, wait a minute now. I have to clarify. It's usually when the teams are equal. There is nobody equal to Iona in this league.
I will have to say, though, I think that the composition of a team in a tournament setting, all teams playing at their absolute peak, Monmouth has the best chance to knock off Iona playing at its absolute peak. Because you look back at the way that they beat Cincinnati, the way that they hung with St. John's until the end, the way that they beat Pittsburgh, Princeton. I think that if Monmouth is at their absolute peak, which unfortunately I don't think they are right now, but a lot can change in a few days. I think Monmouth at their absolute peak is the biggest danger to Iona.
I will say, I'll echo that. I'll say this. I think the only 2 teams that are capable of beating Iona in this tournament are Monmouth and St. Peter's.
We're the Jekyll and Hyde team. If Walker's hitting his floater, Pappas gets loose, Shavar's doing his thing, if all those things are going on and they're clicking, they can win it all. But that can go south in a hurry too. And if they get cold early on and they have a double-digit deficit in the first half, we've seen this year how it goes. It's up to Monmouth to see how they play. And again, nothing is going to surprise me because they're 19-11, and it feels like it was such a great year early on, but it's turned into this roller coaster that really we have no idea if we're going to land smoothly or kind of go off the tracks. So it's one of those things. I can't predict what's going to happen this week. I really just have no idea for us.
It really speaks to the conference that there were about 200 conference games. We have 5 different people here who follow the conference and are trying to give our take. And it's hard to come up with a consensus of anything except for that Iona is obviously the most talented and favorite. Outside of that, things can go a myriad of ways. And that's what makes this tournament in March so compelling. And that's what makes having a show like this so entertaining, because people can watch and listen and say, that guy's a moron, he's an idiot. Well, we'll listen to Drew. He played D1 hoops. We'll listen to him. Guy's just a loudmouth, and so is Mark and Ryan. And we'll listen to Kyle because he's a real journalist, And then Kyle will say something someone doesn't like, and then they'll say, "I'll just listen to the podcast guy." And Drew will say something. They'll say, "He's just looking at it as a former Quinnipiac. He's looking out for Baker Dunleavy to keep his job." There's all sorts of ways that people can spin things, and that's what makes this so entertaining. So, for me personally, I just want to thank Kyle, Guy, and Drew, and obviously Ryan as well, for taking the time out of their day. And, we'll all try to push this out on all platforms it's the perfect thing to listen to if you're making that trip down to Atlantic City, or if you're getting in a gym session, or you got to commute to work, whatever it is, you want to kill an hour plus and really be informed, and obviously listen to us all disagree and agree and then disagree again, and not be too confident in our own selves and our own teams and everybody else's team. This is the way to go. Just want to plug, definitely check out Guy's preview with Jaden as well, as he was not able to get on with us today. And then follow Rachel for Lindsay for her info on Niagara and Canisius, especially if you're a Monmouth fan trying to get info on Niagara and the Marcus Hammond possible redemption tour coming to an end. And just want to thank everybody and everybody who took some time to listen. I'll turn it over to Ryan for the final word. And just thanks everyone from the MAAC for, a fun ride for Monmouth and the MAAC, and a really fun ride for us running a podcast and having such great interaction with so many good people that you would have never found, if you don't go looking for them and you don't have a voice for your team, the other teams in the conference. So thanks everybody for everything.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys having us come with us the last couple of years. I'm kind of sad we're not going to be able to do this anymore. I was thinking eventually, like I said before, we'd be doing this in person and, at a card table or somewhere in Atlantic City in a conference room or something, an actual table. But, unfortunately, we are leaving for the Colonial this year. So this is the end for us in the MAAC. It was fun for 9 years. Monmouth got into a couple of championship games and got heartbroken a few times in between. But overall, I mean, we loved going to the away games at Ryder and Manhattan and Iona, and I went to a couple at Fairfield and Quinnipiac, and it was a fun ride for us. We're looking to new things now, but I do wish you guys a lot of success in the future in the conference and your own lives, and I appreciate you guys coming on with us.
Best of luck in the CAA.
We're gonna need.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
One more consensus. I will just say every team in the league played all 20 MAAC games, which I'm not sure we thought was going to happen at the end of December and in early January. So good job by everybody getting all your games in.
Yeah, really.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Good luck in Atlantic City. We're starting Tuesday night, 5:00 with Manhattan Ryder, with the championship Saturday at 4:00 on ESPNU. Thanks everybody for listening. Stay safe out there.